Jeremy Weiss here. We're live at RetailX. I'm here with Michael with Sales Tax and More, one of the speakers actually. Michael, what are you speaking about?
Sales tax.
And the sexiest topic at this show.
Absolutely, and it's something that people don't want to talk about, but they're starting to realize it's something they need to pay attention to.
So tell us about what you do.
Sales Tax and More, we do pretty much everything sales tax, so from consultations to registrations to sales tax returns, and then we do a lot of income tax consulting also. We work with a lot of CPAs, so we don't do too many income tax returns, but we do, as CPAs enter new markets, they often need to know what the rules are, and we help with that.
So talk about some interesting client stories, because I'm sure, and how they came to you, because this can be a really stressful topic for people.
Yeah, and we have, basically they fall into two groups. The group that doesn't believe they ever have to do anything, and then the group that is going out and wants to do everything, even when they don't need to.
Because they think that Amazon's going to eventually take care of it. That's why they don't want to do anything now.
That's the one group. But then we have groups like, we had a gentleman from Australia, and we have paid consultations, and the salesperson said, you really need a paid consultation. And he was kicking his feet and screaming, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. Well, he did it. And he was selling, individual Keurig coffee, and that's a grocery. It's not taxable in most states. So here's a gentleman who was telling us, just get me registered in all 45 states. And when by the time the consultation was over, I said, "You got 4 states you got to worry about." And coming
saved them a lot of
a lot of pain and heartache. So here's someone who wants to do everything, and you don't have to. I mean, it depends on if you have this connection with the state called Nexus, and if what you sell is taxable, and if your exposure is material, and then what you mentioned. Is a marketplace responsible for collecting the tax. So right now, Maine came out 2 days ago, so that makes 29 states plus DC, where the marketplace by the end of this year will be collecting the tax. So very changing marketplace out there right now. So,
what are some of the big mistakes you find sellers are making around sales tax and e-commerce from what you see?
Procrastination. A lot of sellers think that this is going away, that Congress is going to step in and do something. And we're seeing a big dichotomy here. If you're a marketplace seller, things are getting better. But they're waiting for these economic nexus. They're waiting for it to go away. And unfortunately, I just don't think it's going away. So if you're selling on your own website, although the state said we're going to do this prospectively, meaning from their effective date forward, some of those effective dates are a year old at this point. So just like with Amazon, I talk to a lot of people and they say, if only I knew, I would have collected this from day number 1. Well, now we have the same exact situation and they're waiting. And I think that, every day that passes, if you're over the thresholds, you're building that exposure to the point where now you're going to come back and say, I got too much exposure to register. So you don't want to be making that mistake. That's the biggest mistake I see.
What do you see in the future of e-commerce and sales tax?
We're seeing a dichotomy. So if you're a marketplace seller, I see life getting very good for you, because by this time next year, maybe 1 or 2 states will not have passed legislation making the marketplaces collect. So if all you do is sell on a marketplace, going forward, life looks very rosy. It could be difficult because we have states like California still going after the past sales. So that's the not so good picture. On the companies that do more than sell on a marketplace, I think it's going to get pretty ugly over the next 18 months. We're already starting to see some states purchase lists and start to call everyone on the list. These are lists of people they think have crossed their thresholds. But even there, we're starting to see some good news. One of the trends is states who have originally followed South Dakota and mimicked them and said, $100,000 and 200 transactions, they're now coming back. States like Washington and Colorado coming back, and in Iowa, and changing and eliminating the transaction threshold. For the smallest sellers out there, A lot of states are taking into consideration 200 transactions, not very big. Not all states. So you still have to look, state by state, make sure. We actually have a chart up on our website that will show you what the thresholds are, when they were changed. It's all free, so it's a great tool, and also one for the marketplace sellers. So you can see which states are forcing Amazon to collect and where these marketplaces are compliant. We have Etsy, eBay, Walmart, and Amazon that we track right in there. And if you're selling on one of those platforms, for the most part, you don't have to worry about being registered or collecting if all you're doing is selling on that platform. So good news, if you're only on a platform, it's going to get tough over the next 18 months if you're doing more than selling on a platform like a marketplace, and you're over the thresholds.
Talk about any recent horror stories that you've heard come across with some of the sellers.
Massachusetts is got some real horror stories. So they've got two things that they're really pursuing sellers for. One is that they were the first state to get the list from Amazon. Now, they were really slow to act on it, and they started with the largest sellers, but about October of last year, they started sending out their letters. And they also have a threshold of $500,000, and it goes back to October of 2017. It's not economic nexus, it's this cookie nexus, which they state is a form of physical presence, which is why they can go back prior to June 1st of last year. So they're nailing companies right now at an increased pace, and people ignore it, and then they just send it to get an estimated assessment, and then they send it to collections. So once it goes to collections, there's not much you can do about it. So if you get these letters, talk to someone. It's real important. You can push it off a little bit, but once it starts saying we're sending this over to audit and going to do an estimated assessment, there's not much you can do after that.
Michael, thank you for the insights. Where can people find more about you?
Our website, best place, www.salestaxandmore, all spelled out, .com. So salestaxandmore.com.
Thank you. Jeremy Weiss, live from RetailX. Awesome.